So this isn't a trick question. I just found an incredible connection between the mitzvah of Orla, of not eating the fruit for 3 years from the tree, and Shabbat, and the tie is Tu B'Shvat, which is next Thursday. So the Torah says in Vayikra, "V'chi tavo el haaretz u'ntatem kol etz ma'achal." Again, Wikipedia doesn't have the English. If anybody wants to translate this and contribute to Wikipedia, please go ahead. This is the third day in a row that we have that problem. So the verse starts with that you come to the land and you shall or you will plant all these trees, and then there's Orla. So, like other verses in the Torah, it doesn't mean that this is a mitzvah specifically, because it sounds like it's a connection between the mitzvah of Orla of 3 years not to eat the fruit, but not that there's an actual mitzvah to plant trees in the land. But in one of the two nusachs of Avod Rabbi Natan, which is a larger volume of Ethics of Our Fathers. So this is called Nuscha Bet, and I think it was published by Rav Shechter. It says that even though the Torah does not command us to plant trees, I'm loosely translating, Chazal made the planting of trees in the land of Israel so much that there is a halacha that if somebody is planting a tree and they tell him that the temple is being built, he has to first finish the planting before he goes to Jerusalem to help with building the Mikdash. So the reason why I think it's connected is because today, when we talk about the 39 categories of creative labor that are forbidden on Shabbat, we'll learn that it's related to the building of the Mishkan. And so the Torah tells us, we're telling you all these categories, even though yesterday we just said that there was only four explicitly written in the Torah. All of these categories were learned from things that they had to do for the Mishkan. And because Hashem made a condition that we are not allowed to build the Mishkan Shabbat, as important as it is, that's how we learn these categories. So the melachot that are prohibited on Shabbat, and the reason why he doesn't translate the word melacha, because we said yesterday that it's not work or labor, it's creative labor. It's something we're participating in the process of creating something together with Hashem. And since Hashem stopped creating on Shabbat, then we also must cease of creating on Shabbat. So those that were performing in erecting the Mishkan, almost immediately following the section dealing with erecting the Mishkan, the Torah states, "Nevertheless, you must keep my Shabbatot." So that's in Parshat Ki Tisa, which is between the four parshas. The first two are the plan, and the second two are the actual operation and how they did it. And in between is Parshat Ki Tisa, where it says, "But you must keep Shabbat." This teaches us that even though the melacha of the Mishkan was a great mitzvah, it had to stop for Shabbat as well. Thus the sages state one is liable only for a melacha similar to one that was done in the Mishkan, and that's in Masechet Shabbat. Similarly, the Torah states, "You shall keep my Shabbatot and venerate my Mikdash," which is a sanctuary. "I am the Lord." That's again in Vayikra. Rashi explains, even though I have commanded you to build the Mikdash, nevertheless you must keep my Shabbat, for the building of the Mikdash does not override Shabbat observance. And that makes total sense, just that the rabbis didn't want us to just assume that that's the reason, and that and there's a klal in halacha that we're learning Sanhedrin now in Daf Yomi. En onshim min adin. You don't punish somebody just because of a kal vachomer or teaching. It has to say explicitly why this is prohibited. The implication is that the primary purpose of humanity, created in God's image, is to be a partner with God in improving the world and helping to create. There's a famous story about Rabbi Akiva, who was asked if God's handiwork is better than man's or the other way around. And Rabbi Akiva responded surprisingly that the handiwork of humans is more beautiful. And he gave the example of wheat. Hashem grows wheat, but man perfects it and makes it into bread or cookies or anything else. So nobody eats, as far as I know, fresh grains, and there's no satisfaction in that, as far as I know. The primary way to improve the world is by erecting the Mikdash and the Mishkan, where the Shekhinah dwells. Light spreads from the Mishkan throughout the world, revealing that the whole world deserves to be a receptacle for the Shekhinah. For the Shekhinah dwells wherever one works for the sake of heaven. It should have been a capital H here, with honesty and kindness, in order to increase goodness in the world. It is there that the holiness of the Mishkan spreads. Thus, the essence of Melacha in this world is to build an abode for the Shekhinah. Yet, despite its value, we are commanded to desist from Melacha on Shabbat, just as God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. Of course, he wasn't just tired. It's a totally different kind of rest. Thus, imbuing the 6 days of creation with deep meaning, so too we are commanded to rest on Shabbat. By doing so, we are able to reveal the deeper value of all melachot. So he's going to give us the list of a 39 melachot, and in the Peninei Halacha, because it's just an overview, he doesn't write what each one is. There's so many other books that explain what all of these are. And I did actually find a midrash that says that the reason why there's 39 melachot connected with creation is because there were 39 curses after the sin in the Garden of Eden. Adam, Eve, and the snake got 10 each, and the land got 9. So Zorea, which is sowing, plowing, reaping, gathering, threshing, winnowing, separating, grinding, sifting, kneading, and then cooking or baking. These 11 first ones are in the category of preparing bread and food. Then we go into clothing, gozez tzemer, which is shearing wool, laundering, combing wool, dyeing, spinning, warping, making 2 loops, weaving 2 threads, separating 2 threads, tying a knot, untying a knot, and sewing 2 stitches, and koreal matitpor, tearing in order to sew 2 stitches. So these 13 are related to clothing and preparation of clothing. This last one, 24, is because really if you just tear something on Shabbat or cut something in a way that is destroying it, you're patur. It's not part of what you should be doing on Shabbat. But if it's just because you're angry or you're tearing the peel off of orange or something like that, and that's not prohibited because there's no purpose in it of fixing or creating. You are just tearing to do the tear, and also it's related to the laws of avilut, of mourning, where we're not supposed to tear on Shabbat, even though technically we're not allowed to afterwards repair. The rabbis have a whole discussion about that in Moed Katan. So the next topic is the making of leather utensils. So trapping a deer, slaughtering, skinning, tanning, marking, smoothing, cutting, and writing 2 letters. So when somebody wrote a scroll, because there was no print in the old days, this was part of making the skins for either sorry, again, 33 is erasing 2 letters in order to overwrite them. So these are the ones that are preparing a Torah scroll or a book or anything else that you might do with leather, shoes, everything like that. And then the last few are related to building. So building, demolishing, again, demolishing not just breaking a wall, but demolishing it in order to create a new wall instead, extinguishing a fire, lighting a fire, applying the finishing touches, and carrying from one domain to another. And we mentioned this last one already because we said that it's called a melacha gru'ah. You're not changing anything in the body of the object that you're carrying, but because the camp of Israel was considered Reshut Rabim, a public domain, that's why it is prohibited on Shabbat, and again related to the Mishkan. You're not allowed to bring your donations to the Mishkan on Shabbat from your private domain to the public domain. So, last but not least, these 39 activities are called Avot Melacha, primary categories, or simply Avot, as are activities that are very similar to them. Activities that are largely but not entirely similar to Avot are called Tuladot. In practice, there is no difference between an Av Melacha and a Toladah, and tomorrow we'll learn about the rabbinical aspect. They both are prohibited by the Torah and they carry the same punishment that we talked about yesterday. It is simply a semantic distinction, a melacha that is very similar to an activity that was performed while erecting the Mishkan is called an Av, while everyone else is not as similar, is called a Toladah. And we'll stop here and open up for questions.